After days of listening to their dog bark at the drain, Mark and Rachel decided it was time to investigate the source of the commotion. They were alarmed by Cooper's unusual fixation on the drain. Expecting to find a lost toy, they were instead greeted by a disturbing sound. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Rachel called 911 in distress, despite Mark's attempts to calm her. Guilt washed over him for not checking sooner, while Rachel anxiously wondered if they were already too late. As they waited for the police, anxiety hung thick in the air, with no sign of their arrival. Frustrated, Rachel urged Mark to take action. He struggled against a heavy cabinet blocking the drain and, in exasperation, dashed outside, leaving Rachel watching from the window. He quickly rummaged through the shed for a crowbar and returned, instructing her to stand back. With determination, he wedged the crowbar under the cabinet and began to pry it up. Seizing the moment, Rachel swiftly removed the drain cover, revealing what lay inside. As they faced the unexpected sight, they couldn't help but wonder why Cooper had been so fixated on the drain. Rachel and Mark had recently moved into their new home when Cooper's behavior changed. She became anxious whenever entering the master bathroom, nervously sniffing around. Initially dismissing it as Cooper adjusting poorly, they soon realized it was something more serious. After days of strange behavior, Cooper finally barked at the drain, startling Rachel, who had been applying eyeliner at the time. Despite Rachel's frustration, Cooper's agitation continued, unnoticed, as Rachel left the room in annoyance. Mark went to check on Cooper in the bathroom, where she continued barking at the drain. Rachel finished applying her lipstick when Mark urgently called her. Concerned, Rachel rushed to the bathroom, where Mark gestured for silence near the drain. Rachel was stunned and nearly overwhelmed when she discovered something alarming in the drain. Eventually, they decided to call 911, and Rachel made the call, her voice trembling with anxiety as she struggled to describe the situation to the operator, emphasizing the urgency for assistance. "Please send someone." After a tense wait, they decided to take matters into their own hands. Mark hurried to the shed for a crowbar, while Rachel anxiously waited. He quickly returned, ready to pry open the cabinet blocking the drain. With determination, they prepared to uncover whatever lay beneath, resolved to solve the mystery on their own. Mark positioned the crowbar under the heavy cabinet, preparing to lift it, while Rachel watched anxiously. "It's moving," Mark called, his muscles straining as the cabinet gradually lifted. Rachel encouraged him as he made progress, eventually revealing the hidden drain cover inch by inch. They peered into the dark hole, straining to see, but realized they needed light. Mark used his phone's flashlight, illuminating the damp, shadowy interior of the drain. Both searched anxiously, unable to discern much. Rachel reached into the drain, but despite her efforts, she couldn't grasp anything. Mark became increasingly worried, checking his watch and realizing time was slipping away since they had called 911. He urgently reminded Rachel of the ticking clock, but she persisted, reaching deeper into the drain, her desperation palpable. Suddenly, Rachel gasped in alarm as her arm became trapped. Panicking, she cried out for Mark's help. Mark knelt beside her, trying to calm her down while carefully attempting to free her arm. Despite his efforts, Rachel's arm remained stuck, causing her pain and frustration. Mark had a sudden inspiration and hurried to the kitchen to find olive oil, hoping to lubricate Rachel's trapped arm. Returning to the bathroom, he applied the oil carefully, and with cautious manipulation, Mark successfully freed her arm, bringing immediate relief. With her arm now free, Rachel and Mark sat by the drain, pondering their next steps. They observed the mysterious object still inside, barely visible in the dim light. Mark expressed uncertainty about how to retrieve the object, prompting Rachel to suggest calling the fire department for their specialized equipment. As she prepared to make the call, they heard police sirens approaching, bringing unexpected relief. Mark quickly briefed the police officers about the situation upstairs, emphasizing the mysterious object in the drain that they couldn't reach. Concerned, the officers inspected the drain with flashlights, exchanging serious glances as they realized the need for additional resources. They decided to call the fire department for specialized assistance. Rachel, anxious and tense, sat on the edge of the bathtub, wiping olive oil from her arm. She asked Mark about the delay and the expected arrival time of help, while both observed the officers by the drain, expecting sirens. The officers, quietly strategizing, acknowledged the complexity ahead, but focused on maintaining calm. Mark and Rachel exchanged worried glances, realizing their cozy bathroom had become an emergency scene. Gripped by fear and maternal instinct, Rachel thought she heard cries from the drain that resembled a newborn's, but she hoped it might be something else. Mark, uncertain, couldn't confirm what they were hearing. They anxiously awaited a resolution while the officers strategized nearby. Rachel struggled to maintain her composure, suggesting it might be an animal. The arrival of the fire department underscored the seriousness of the situation, their somber demeanor matching the gravity of the circumstances. Rachel and Mark anxiously waited outside as firefighters worked inside, their movements echoing ominously through the house. Rachel's nerves were on edge with each sound, prompting her to question what was happening. Mark tried to reassure her, despite his own uncertainty. The atmosphere was tense, filled with the clanging of tools and the muffled voices of the firefighters. Then, Rachel and Mark experienced a moment of intense anticipation as the noises from inside abruptly ceased, replaced by an eerie silence. They exchanged anxious glances, unsure of what had transpired. The firefighters' previously loud activity shifted to hushed whispers, heightening the tension. A police officer approached them cautiously, holding a bundle wrapped in a blanket. His demeanor was gentle but serious as he informed them that something had been found. Rachel and Mark froze with anticipation, preparing themselves for what the officer would reveal, their emotions hanging on the edge of hope and fear. Rachel, overcome with apprehension, hesitantly uncovered the bundle under the officer's guidance. Mark stood by her side, offering quiet support. As she revealed the contents, her initial uncertainty turned to shock and disbelief at the sight of what appeared to be a motionless newborn wrapped in the blanket. Rachel's reaction was one of stunned horror as she covered her mouth in shock. Mark, equally stunned, leaned in for a closer look, his voice trailing off in disbelief. The officer, maintaining a calm demeanor, urged them to take a moment to process what they were witnessing, hinting that there was more to understand. He explained that the baby they had found was actually a motion sensor doll used for training purposes. Initially in disbelief, Rachel quickly felt relief wash over both of them as they realized it was just a false alarm. They chuckled nervously, with Mark expressing frustration at having called the police over a toy, while the officer reassured them it was the right decision under the circumstances. Once the police and firefighters left with the motion sensor doll, Rachel and Mark entered the bathroom to find it in disarray, the cabinet askew and the floor littered with olive oil and muddy footprints from the firefighters. Despite the mess, they recognized an opportunity to renovate the bathroom and joked about needing a new drain cover. This moment sparked plans to make their home more comfortable, turning an unsettling experience into motivation for positive change. With smiles on their faces, Mark and Rachel felt ready to move forward, determined to avoid any more scares involving dolls. They shared a soft laugh, embracing each other with relief and exhaustion after the night's eerie adventure. "Let's get some sleep," Mark said gently. "Tomorrow's a new day." Holding hands, they prepared to move on, ready for a fresh start together.